The luxury SUV segment is a hugely popular one in India, and in the late 90s, Mercedes pioneered this segment with the M-Class. Well, in 2015, they changed the way their cars were badged, and all the SUVs were going to be called GL with the suffix of the sedan that they were based off. That's when the M-Class became the GLE. So it wasn't really a new car at that time, it was just a facelift, but taking on the new nomenclature. Now I'm here in San Antonio, long way away from home, to actually test drive what is the all-new GLE. I'm going to spend the next 2 days checking out all the variants and telling you all about it.
The new GLE is bigger in length and width, and both front and rear track have also expanded. There's also more space that's been created between the front and rear wheels. In fact, the wheelbase has increased by about 80 mm. So yes, this new GLE has grown. However, it's not as tall as before, and especially when you view it from the rear, it looks a lot squatter. In fact, the rear profile could easily be mistaken for an overgrown hatch, and that somehow misses the mark of the traditional SUV look. From all other angles though, the GLE plays the part well. In front, the octagonal area housing the grille is now more upright, and the chrome-plated underguard rises right up to the grille, adding more beef. You get two different kinds of grilles. One is the single bar with the pin mesh, and there's the double bar with the hexagonal mesh, and it depends on which variant you have. There are flatter headlamps that spread out on the edges, carrying the double inverted L LEDs, giving it an additional impression of width. From the side, the A-pillar is a tad more upright, and the trademark wide C-pillar is still there, though the wheels now fit flush to the body and it looks much nicer. There are sharp creases on the bonnet and along the body, adding sportiness, but the edges are all softer and more subtle now. And despite that squat look from the rear, the GLE is a visually appealing SUV.
On the inside, it's a whole new world. Gone is the upright iPad-like infotainment center, and you get the single glass that stretches across your dials and the infotainment screen like we've seen in the E-Class. Below that, you get now 4 AC vents. The central console has also changed dramatically. You've got a larger touchpad over here. You've got grab handles because it's an SUV. There's a huge panoramic sunroof which really opens out the interior. But on the whole, this new design, it's less fussy, it's more modern, and it definitely feels luxury.
The MBUX, or the Mercedes-Benz user experience, has been enhanced with 40 new features. Some of them really interesting ones. And we got one of the engineers working on the MBUX to talk us through it himself.
Well, I'm now going to get a demo on the brand new MBUX system by the man who's helped build it himself, Thomas Kalberger. He's going to run us through a whole bunch of new features that the MBUX system has. So, Thomas, tell us all about it.
For example, we feature a global proximity detection. This means the system always knows where your hand is and highlights the features accordingly. You can, for example, now enter the navigation menu, and you see this control bar on the bottom, which is disappearing after a few seconds, roughly 5. As soon as you go there, when you need it, it comes up again. But it is also working for the touchpad. As soon as you reach there, control bar is coming up. However, and this is the intelligent part of it, now if you go here for your key, your phone, you're always with your arm on top of the touchpad, right? But it's not activating.
Oh, that's
you
right.
see?
Yes.
This is the intelligence, which you see only if you're here with your hand, then it's activating. We can also robustly distinguish between driver and passenger, which means you see already here, the driver is interacting now, whereas when you go there, the passenger seat will be highlighted, will be enlarged.
The system will also bring up the camera view function as the driver's hand approaches, so that the driver does not have to be distracted by reaching or looking for a menu. In addition, settings can be made for particular gestures for driver or passenger, and each one will pull up the function associated to it. Other intelligent features work in the dark, with the front reading light coming on as the hand reaches under it. Also, if the passenger seat is unoccupied and the driver reaches for the glove box or something on the passenger seat, then the light will come up to help him see. Apart from that, there is a new voice assistant which answers to the call of "Hey Mercedes." But the system was a bit flawed and was overeager, piping up randomly, or it was unable to understand a command. The GLE also has a host of safety features like lane assist and blind spot assist, emergency braking and traffic assistant, but since we don't know which ones will make it to India, we'll save that list for later. Let's focus on the area of interest to the Indian consumer, the back seat.
Well, for starters, getting into the rear seat is much easier now. But then you do sit much lower than you did in the previous GLE. So visibility to the front isn't as great as before. But as far as room goes, there is just so much more of it that's opened out. Leg room is really, really massive. I may be small, so this looks considerably large, but I can tell you even a 6-foot footballer would be extremely, extremely comfortable in here. There's loads of headroom. The panoramic sunroof extends all the way to the back, and there's definitely more width as well.
4-zone climate control is available across variants, and the vents in the central console and on the B-pillar ensure that rear passengers will always be comfy.
Well, the good news is now you can opt for a third row of seats with the GLE. Yes, it is small in the third row of seats. You do sit a bit knees up, but look, I'm 5'4". I fit in here with this seat in its rearmost position. The middle row of seats now, you can opt for ones that have travel as well, and I'll get in front and show you that in a bit. So you can adjust the space between the middle row and the rear row and get a lot more room in here. Best for small children though on long journeys. Getting in and out, however, is at the touch of a button, so not too difficult. Let's show you that. Now, as you can see, I have a large amount of travel. It's about 100 millimeters of travel for the middle row.
So finding the middle ground between rear and middle row should be easy enough. For now, let's go to the front of the car to get behind the wheel.
There's a feature called Adapt, where I can actually set my height. Let's get this down to 5 feet 4 inches. Yep, that's my height. I do start positioning. Do I want to position the seat and steering wheel using the height entered? Yes. And as you can see, I'm being given the optimal driving position without having to really adjust any of the features myself. And this is something I can save as well as a profile, so every time I get into the car, I can use it.
It worked really well and I was instantly comfortable. Settling in behind the wheel, I noticed a marked difference in the way it felt from there.
Now, the initial impression when you get into the car is that, this feels more car-like. You sit closer to the ground. You don't get that upright, off-the-floor feeling that you got in the earlier GLE.
Adding to the feeling is the fact that the central part of the dash sits quite high to house the new integrated screen. Still, visibility is good, and with a large amount of height adjust to the seat, you still get enough of a commanding feeling. My journey around San Antonio began in the new 2-liter 4-cylinder diesel that we have seen recently in the facelift C-Class.
There's no thumping wave of torque. Power delivery is really smooth and evenly spread. Even ambling around, gently tap the throttle and you get power instantly. The 9-speed shifts down very quickly and efficiently as well. And whether you're at lower speeds or whether you're at high speed and want an overtake maneuver, it just offers up power equally quickly.
In fact, the gearbox does so well that I really didn't find the need to use the paddles. After the 300D, I also had a short stint in the 400D, powered by a 3-liter 6-cylinder. The engine has exhaust gas after treatment, and Mercedes say it's ready to meet the Euro 60 emission norms in 2020, which means our norms in 2020 will be easily met too. It's a powerful engine with 330 HP and a strong 700 Nm of torque that you can feel pushing you back into your seat as you floor the throttle. Even with gentle dabs of the throttle, the gearbox rapidly drops a couple of gears and you get a strong surge. If it's power that you're looking for, then this is the engine to pick. The area around San Antonio is pretty flat, and we had to head quite a distance to find a bit of variation on the road. But we did manage to finally find a small section of winding road.
The other big difference really is the way the GLE feels around corners. The steering has more feel. It feels far more sure-footed, stable, planted, and definitely better to drive.
The GLE's body structure has 20% more torsional stiffness, and a variety of materials have been used to keep the weight down despite the fact that it's grown. This helps in stability and ride. While the 300D and the 400D that we drove had the standard air suspension, it was the e-active suspension in the 450 petrol that was interesting with its new lowrider-like attitude.
So I'm going to show you the e-active body control, where an electric motor actually works in tandem with the systems of the cars to actuate the dampers at individual wheels. And the best way to show it to you is from the outside, because this car can really do a jig. For this, I have to be in drive. I have to shift into off-road mode. Yep, we're all set. And then we have something called the free driving assistant, which if I start, and you can see this, starts with a gentle rocking and then gets more pronounced and will happen for about 30 seconds. This is to be able to allow you to get out of, tough situations like when you're stuck in soft sand or if you're stuck in a spot of slush. Rocks the car to be able to allow you to get the grip to get out. We'll stop that and we get back into the other mode, which is the individual wheel control. I can make this car do some crazy stuff, and yes, this is going to make it a far more capable off-roader.
Basically, the system works with the dampers connected to an intelligent motor in the 48-volt system that enables hydropneumatics to actuate each damper individually. It was more fun than anything else for us on this ride, since we did not have the off-road conditions to give it a real try. However, out on the road we did get a feel of the petrol power plant that is a mild hybrid with a 48-volt electric motor.
It's a nice, strong engine.
Power comes in strongly from about 1600 RPM, and the electric motor even provides additional boost for short bursts.
With a lot of punch.
With a claimed 0 to 100 of 5.7 seconds, it is quick. But the fact is, whether you want a sporty dash or a relaxed cruise, this engine is happy to serve up the right manners. All variants have the various driving modes from Eco to Comfort to Sport and Sport Plus, and the calibration between the modes is far more distinct now, and you can clearly feel the differences. The e-active also has the curve mode, which allows it to lean into a corner akin to a bike, and it does make it feel more sure-footed. Lastly, let's talk about ride. There was a big difference between all the cars we drove, with the 300D feeling very firm in all modes and the 400D feeling very soft in comfort and better in sport. The 450 with the air suspension and higher profile tires and the 450 e-active were the ones that felt like a Mercedes should. But it's all down to the tires and suspension tuning, which will be adapted to India, so we best reserve comment until then. The new GLE is slated to hit India mid-2019, and it's about time. The older car has been around 7 years and was feeling a bit jaded. This spanking new GLE will have better performance, with the 300D replacing the current 250D, the 400D replacing the 350D, and the 400 petrol will now become a 450. The interiors are also modern and smack of quality. It's loaded with tech, and although some systems like the voice activation need to be further developed, it really has everything that one needs in terms of connectivity, safety, and entertainment. Mercedes also claim with the e-Active, it is now a much more capable off-roader. But in India, in this segment where backseat matters most, Merc has the advantage, with an already spacious interior becoming even more roomy. And the kicker really is the 7-seat option. The new GLE is definitely sufficiently armed and equipped to take on the competition.